Hey, this is Jacob Nash, and this is a review of Module 3 for AP Psychology. And I call this, What Jobs Can You Have? So I already tried to record this video yesterday, but what do you know? It didn't work because I accidentally had the microphone muted. Oh, pay attention to this. Okay, so this might seem the same as Module 2. It's not. Do you know why? Because in Module 2, we talked about the types of psychology. Remember? Now we're talking about the jobs and what they do. Okay. Review from Module 2. Remember there's two kinds of research types. There's the F off Marty ones, and there's the I'll help you Marty ones. The F off Marty ones, they are basic research. They are only looking to add knowledge to scientific base. They just want to find things out. But applied research ones, they actually want to make a change for the better or solve practical problems. Okay, let's talk about the F off Marty jobs that you can get. Okay, here's the first one, a cognitive psychologist. Well, what do? They study thought processes, perception, language, attention, problem, memory, judgment, decisions, forgetting, and intelligence. They could be a professor, industrial consultant, or human factor specialist. Well, let's look at this video, and there's going to be lots of videos.
Baby, this place is clean AF.
Frank? Excuse me?
So, there's going to be lots of videos and pictures on here, and they might not seem like they connect, but they do. So here you go. This is a commercial, and how does this relate to a cognitive psychologist? Well, this mother-in-law studied the language and the thought processes of her son-in-law. And what do you know? She didn't like what she saw. So that's how you can remember. Remember the clean AF. That's language, that's thought processes, that's all those different things. Basically just things related to how your thought processes work and your memory. That's basically what they look at.
Baby.
Okay. So developmental psychologists, they look at behavior changes with age. So from womb to tomb, that's what David Myers likes to say. So if you've seen the movie Click, remember he has the remote and he can go forward in time when he's old. And so not old. What changes has he gone through? So that's what they would look at. Educational psychologists, they look at the psychological processes in learning. They can develop strategies for learning. So Karate Carry, that was some sort of like comedy video or something. And he would develop strategies for karate. So I don't know. Learning doesn't necessarily have to be just in school, but there's also a school psychologist that we're going to talk about, and it's not the same thing. So, all right, what about experimental psychologists? Well, they look at processes in humans, behavioral processes in humans and animals. Well, what kinds? Well, they look at motivation, learning, thought, attention, memory, perception, and language. You might think that seems similar to the clean AF. Well, it is, because they could also be cognitive psychologists. So I'm going to have a lot of Bruce Almighty scenes. Look at Jim Carrey. He's mad on the bed. He doesn't want to get up that morning to go to his news reporter job. They might study why does he have no motivation to go to his job, and things like that. All right. A psychometric psychologist. Well, they study they study methods to help people acquire psychological knowledge. They also might look at personality tests for school. They're not the ones that make it though, but they might look at things like this. Okay, well, there's two Tim Allens. One is happier than the other. So what's the deal with that? They might think about it. All right. And it's because if you remember, psychometric psychology, it is the degree of a certain trait. How much does he have this trait? All right, a quantitative psychologist. They design, analyze, and interpret the results of the research programs. So basically, they're making the tests that the psychometric psychologists use. So look, they have that on their computer. They're trying to make this test. Social psychologists, well, they study how our beliefs, feelings, and behaviors are affected by or influence other people. So we see, once again, Bruce. Why is Bruce mad? It could have been some sort of thing that happened. Maybe he was mad about something that Evan did or something. But look, he's having an effect on other people. Not only is he affected, he's affecting. He's affected this person behind him, which I think is a man, but I can't really tell because they have a hood on. It might be a woman. I'm not sure. So sorry if if I got that wrong, but I can't tell because they have a rain jacket on. But regardless, he made them mad. All right, so those are all the different F off Marty ones. They're not really going to solve any problems. They're just looking at things. Now, and that's not saying they're not important. Definitely not. I'm just saying that's how you can remember it. And then here's the applied research ones, the ones that help Marty. All right, what about a forensic psychologist? Well, they use psychology for legal issues. So, for example, they could be hired in court to prove that someone is not mentally stable. And what would be the purpose of that? Well, then they could go to a mental institution instead of a jail. That sometimes happens. Somebody is proved that they didn't even know what crime they did. Let's say someone robbed a bank and somehow they had some kind of thing where they didn't know that was bad to do. They could be put in a mental institution instead of put in a jail. That's not always good though, because people can fake that. But, and here's an example of someone faking that. This is MacGyver. There's also going to be some MacGyver things. Well, it's doubtful, but if you happen to have seen any of my math courses, you would know that I have used these things for like algebra 2 and pre-calculus and whatnot. But anyways, in this episode, I believe he's in Siberia and he was put into a jail there. Because if you don't know the show, there's a modern one. This is the 1980s one and 90s, but he's just trying to solve some kind of problem. He's sort of like a spy, and he has all these tricks that he's trying to do to get out of things. But sometimes he gets himself into trouble. He got himself into trouble in this case, and it made him go to a Siberian jail. But he was able to be put into a mental institution by doing this. Okay.
What we must be!
So sorry, that's a short clip because do you think I want to go to jail myself? No, because I'm not going to upload the episode. But anyways, I believe that's what he was doing in that episode. He was acting like he was crazy or something, so he could be in the mental institution and therefore could break out with, I believe it was Dmitri. I don't know, but that's besides the point. That's what a forensic psychologist does. Okay, so what about health psychologists? Well, these can be very useful. They can help prevent diseases and promote health. How? Well, they can help people stop smoking, stop drinking, manage weight, improve sleep, manage pain, or prevent disease spread. So pretend that MacGyver is a health psychologist who's trying to get this guy that was a boxer previously back into the swing of things, back to the way he was. Oh. Oops, it did full screen. Okay. So I have hopefully you're able to see that. Hang on, I have to pause this thing. I have a screen problem right now. Okay, back to normal. So you can see he's helping this guy get back to the way he was. Now, technically, this could be a sports psychologist, which we're going to talk about soon, but let's just say that was for his health purposes, because in the episode, it was supposed to be that he wasn't as in shape or whatever as he was or something. So anyways, what about an IO psychologist? Well, remember, I already had my whole story about what I knew that someone did. And but I'm going to say that in a minute. They study relationship between people in their working environments. They can create ways to increase productivity, employee selection, promote job satisfaction, and more. And they can conduct workplace training. Now, here's an example of what one did, in case you didn't watch the Module 2 video. Someone I know was trying to work for this company right here. Well, they did years ago anyways, but they were trying to again after years more of experience. And when they applied, they had to take a test made by an IO psychologist. And the test, when he answered it, it said he could only be a manager. But that's not what he was trying to be. He was trying to be a salesman. He, in fact, doesn't know that much about managing anyways. He only knew about sales things. But because it said that, that's the only thing that he could do. But he didn't take the job ultimately anyways. But that's what they do. So I guess not always do they get everything right, but they're trying to make their best efforts to have the best employees and things like that. All right, what about a neuropsychologist? Well, they investigate the relationship between nervous system and behavior. So if you're not familiar with what the nervous system is, I would suggest looking that up. But they can investigate things like those two things. And it's not just those. There's other things than just like ADHD and the other thing. But there can also be clinical neuropsychologists. They work in neurology, neurosurgery, or a psychiatric unit. So they might think, okay, well, what's the reason why someone's having these problems? What can we do to fix it? So it's that simple. All right. All right, what about a rehabilitation psychologist? Well, that seems pretty straightforward. They just help people that lost a certain ability due to an accident or an illness. Sometimes if there's some kind of bad thing that sometimes maybe you got into a car crash or something, and when the car crashed, it crashed into your leg. So, and that made you have a leg injury. Maybe that means you couldn't walk, or you could even get paralyzed. But there are ways to get back to the way that you used to be. That's what these people help to do. And they don't, obviously, since they're psychologists, they don't necessarily do things physically, but they have their ways of helping people regain their abilities. So let's see, what if this happened to you? So what if you decide to, for some reason, pray in a highway? Well, that might not be good, because what if a truck hit you like that? Then that might happen to you. So there you go. Sorry, it always replays videos. All right, school psychologist. Well, remember, not the same as the educational. That was a F off Marty one. Remember the karate carry. Not this one. This isn't the F off Marty one. They diagnose social, cognitive, and emotional problems that impact a student's function. So they're not just looking for learning strategies. They're trying to think about what things can impact a student's function or behavior. So what if you had a teacher like that? That might be the thing that you need to kick out of their life to make it back to normal. A sports psychologist. I already mentioned this with like the MacGyver boxing one. There can be psychologists that help athletes. So they could study how psychology influences or is influenced by sports. They can educate coaches or prepare athletes. They can also help with anxiety or substance abuse. So you could go from this to this. Oh, okay, so if you couldn't tell, that was not a very good swing. That was a better swing. But as you can see, they're older in that one. Well, it's not the same person, but pretend that it is. They're older in that one. Oh, so you know it could take a long time, but they can get the job done. All right, let's talk about the helping professions. Still applied research, but we'll see how these are different slightly. All right, a clinical psychologist. Well, the reason why these are slightly different, they're more broad. So let's see. A clinical psychologist, they can promote psychological health in individuals, groups, and organizations. They can even do psychotherapy. They assess and treat mental, emotional, and behavioral disorders. So let's say, oh, they're thinking about the different disorders. they are assessing it. They can type that in. So hopefully that maybe can help you remember. All right, what about a community psychologist? Well, they can deal with broad problems of mental health in communities, not just individuals. And they focus on enhancing the environment that people are in. All right, a counseling psychologist. Well, these help people with life transitions or lifestyle changes. They conduct therapy and provide assessments. So let's just say there was some, this is Challengers Club in MacGyver. This is in the show, that's a place where some troubled kids can go. So they might need some counseling psychologists to help them with their transitions. All right, let's do some review. So as usual, just pause it after I read it and then I'll show the answer. And I'll try to emphasize, that's a good thing to do. Think about what are the key words, and this is good for any AD class, honestly. Name the type of psychologist who would study the way people behave differently in groups than they do when alone. That there would be a social psychologist. Groups, that was a key word. What would an industrial organizational psychologist research? There's not really keywords for that. But remember, that's the thing that I told you, that guy, someone I knew, he had to take that test and it said he couldn't be a salesman. They study the connection between people and their work environments. Their research is designed to benefit the overall workplace and productivity. Okay, next. Which psychological subfield would state that human behavior is influenced by the interaction of people and their physical, social, political, and economic environments? Environments, keyword, because that's a community psychologist. Remember, they're trying to improve those environments. All right, now, which psychological subfield would research biological, psychological, cognitive, and social changes? That is a developmental psychologist. Changes, remember, womb to tomb. Which subfield of psychology would research the methods teachers use to enhance student learning? Well, this might be a little bit tricky because remember, there's two that seem similar. One of them is trying to examine the reason for a behavior. The others has strategies. So does this sound like strategies? That's a F off Marty one. Or is it someone that's just trying to examine what things influence a student's function? Well, in fact, that's the F off Marty one because they're trying to enhance the student learning. Now, you might be a little bit confused because remember I said the F off Marty ones aren't trying to necessarily help, but by enhancing student learning, they are adding information to a scientific base. So that's the reason why it would be that one. Now, the psychological subfield that focuses on helping people make good decisions about their well-being. Remember that was the boxing MacGyver one, helping them get back to normal? That's a health psychologist. With that, here's some credits. And with that, that's the end of this video. I hope that you have enjoyed these and I'll try to keep making them. Thank you for watching.